Welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled meeting. And the first thing I wanted to acknowledge, we normally have commissioners here, but there's some event going on right now. So all of you, welcome. I see some LP, I see some Bay Plaza people, some other newish folks. So to those of you, we welcome you. First order of business is to establish a quorum, and I think we have everybody but Ken, if I'm not mistaken, and Judy. So certainly we have 8 of our 10 board members, so quorums are declared. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes, which were circulated a couple of days ago. Were there any comments or edits or corrections to those? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those? By Patrick, Peter.
Come on.
We got a lot of Peters and Patricks. So,
How do you keep it straight?
It's a common.
all right, Peter, is there a second to that? Second by Patrick. So all those in favor? Unanimously adopted. Clark, have a treasurer report for us, sir.
Yeah, the Seacoast Bank checking account for the DSCA has $10,440.67.
Good, and we've been working, Patrick, we want to do later a little update on membership, or?
I can just give you a quick.
Yeah, why don't we just do that? And I think many of you know our memberships for associates and for member condos are skewed to happen in December. So that bank balance seems big, but for the rest of the year, that's drawn down. And so, and I know Patrick and Clark and Jamie have been working hard on their renewals, et cetera. So Patrick, I think you got a little summary.
Well, just the summary on the condos, we have over 90% have renewed, those who were up for renewal first of the year. And of those, there's 3 that are in the process of renewing. As we have every year, we find out that the Condo Association Management, whoever pays the bills, has changed, or notify people and tracking down the right people and getting it submitted and re-paid is part of the process we go through every year. So we're very close now with only 3 remaining January renewals on the condos. So it's very good.
And I personally am working on some renewals that have lapsed and some new folks. So I'm hopeful that we can do pushes. And I will again make a little advertisement here for $250 a year. This is one of the better bargains in town. With that said, I'm really pleased to introduce Kelly Brown. Kelly is president of CCNA. I instantly knew I was going to like her when I saw that some of her executive experiences were with Harbor Freight and Lowe's. 2 of my favorite spots as a somewhat younger person. Kelly is a very hardworking Gillespie Park resident who has recently taken over as president of CCNA. So the format we're going to use today that Kelly and I agreed is she's going to talk a little about CCNA, what they do, what some of their priorities are, and then in a sense we're going to have a conversation about mutual interests. We align really, really well, but what's the opportunity for DSCA and CCNA to keep a cordial relationship? I think I attend virtually every CCNA meeting, so I'm seeing firsthand what they do. So without further ado, let me introduce Kelly, who's probably going to talk for 10, 15 minutes, whatever she wants, and then we'll open it up to questions. Here you go, Kelly.
Thank you, David. You know, David actually asked me to do a PowerPoint, and I said, absolutely not. When I worked for Harbor Freight, we had to do a PowerPoint for every every single meeting, every single presentation, the owner expected a PowerPoint, even if it was for 5 minute conversation. So I'm PowerPointing out. I do live in Gillespie Park. I am the president of the Gillespie Park Neighborhood Association also, which is, just down the street here. And our neighborhood association is very active. CCNA, for those of you that don't know about CCNA, the Coalition of City Neighborhood Associations, started over 30 years ago when 4 women would run into each other at City Hall all the time, going there to talk about something with city staff that their neighborhood needed resolved. And as they sat in the lobby waiting for whoever they were supposed to talk to, they found that they had a lot of the same concerns, and they decided to band together to help each other to get what they needed done with the city. And one of those women is Linda Holland, who has been the president of the Gillespie Park Neighborhood Association forever. And she spent 5 years trying to talk me into doing it, and I finally gave in. So I did that a year ago. But her and Molly Cardeman, who many of you probably know, were 2 of those 4 women that started CCNA. And today CCNA has 33 neighborhoods that are members of the 60-odd neighborhoods identified by the city. I'm currently working on what does that mean from a resident count standpoint? How much actual, and I'm going to use the word power, does CCNA really have with the city? So that's something we're working on right now. There's so many people involved in CCNA that are so talented to make things happen and get things done that I was really excited to be asked to be the president of CCNA. One of the things that we work on is initiatives, and we have actually 5 stated initiatives at CCNA, 4 of which we are actively working on. And one of the things I learned a long time ago in working in corporate America is you can have 15 great ideas, but if you try to do all 15 at one time, you're going to do a crummy job on all 15. So pick 3 and knock them out of the park. So that's the focus that we have at CCNA. And one of the other things that, as a member of CCNA for the last 2 years, I would always ask the question, well, whatever happened to the answer to the question that somebody asked at a meeting? So my commitment to the membership is, if there's a question left unanswered, we're bringing it back. It's not going to be forgotten. Your answer is going to be found out, and we're going to tell you the answer you're looking for. So we're working on that. One of our first initiatives we're working on is as it relates to code compliance, specifically noise control and vacation rental control. Those are the 2 key focuses. And within that initiative, we have a committee. Each initiative has a committee with a chair. And vacation rental control, as you may or may not know, went to the mainland a year ago by pushing to get that. And right now, the city is trying to get people that have been, there's 700 known addresses that have been identified as vacation rentals through the software program that the city has. And it has been slow going to get the owners to register their vacation rentals. So right now, what CCNA is doing is reaching out to the city to say, how can we help? What can we do to help make it happen? Speaking for Gillespie Park, somehow, some way, the ordinance got written, and Gillespie Park as a downtown neighborhood, edge neighborhood, got left out. We have 60 vacation rentals. 10% of that, the houses in our neighborhood are vacation rentals right now, and it keeps growing. So we're working to get Gillespie Park East added to that. Rosemary District actually wouldn't be either, even though it's mostly condos. So that's one thing. And then noise control. I don't know if any of you were at the city commission meeting when they were talking just a few weeks ago. I don't know that we accomplished a whole lot, but I'm holding out hope that something is going to happen, something is going to change. You know, it's a double-edged sword, because when you live downtown, there is noise. There's going to be noise. But at what point should the noise stop? At what point should the noise get quieter? Is really key, you know. And then when you go into neighborhoods, you've got the same problem, only this time it's barking dogs. And you've got people that in a vacation rental, bring their dogs, leave the dog outside in the yard, leave all day, and that dog barks the entire time. So there's a different set of noise control problems when you get out into the neighborhoods. So trying to find that and understand what the different problems are for all the neighborhoods, whether it's a condo, whether it's single family homes, whether it's multifamily homes, understanding how each of the different problems align and how we can go about solving them with the city is what we're focused on. The second thing we're focused on is health and safety specifically traffic calming and pedestrian safety and bicycle safety. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there is going to be a town hall with the city on February 19th around the new traffic calming solutions that they're going to roll out. That was the presentation at last Saturday's CCNA meeting. There's a committee that's been working on that for 2 years with the city. One of the things that, for me, coming from corporate America, is so difficult working for the city, to be perfectly honest, is it takes forever to get anything done. You know, you've got somebody that's got to ask somebody, and somebody else, you know, not any one of you know when you come from corporate or you own your own business, you decide and you move on. That's not how it works in the government, unfortunately. So we've been working for 2 years with traffic calming, and it's now being rolled out where it used to be 70% of the people that asked for some type of traffic calming, whether it's speed tables or speed signs on the street, 70% of the people were told no, they didn't qualify. With the new program that's being rolled out, and the committee, some of you may know some of the people that were on the committee: Norm Dumaine, Lou Costa, Mary Butler, Richard Harris. They worked really hard with Nick Patel and his staff to make these changes, and it was a long time coming, and what they accomplished is completely changing things around. So now you're going to get something. You're not going to get, you may not get the full treatment, but you're going to get something if there's a speeding problem on your street, which wasn't the way it was in the past. So that's exciting. The next thing they're going to bite off is crosswalks and how to get more crosswalks and crosswalk safety. That's the next project that the committee is going to work on with the city. So that is a committee that is really, really important. The next one I know you guys work on a lot in DSCA, and is very important to you, and that is meaningful development input. When a new development is coming up on the edge of a neighborhood or in downtown, how is that going to affect the developments that are already there? How is it going to affect the single family homes that are there? The city just announced the Development Review Committee is going to be completely rebuilt, and they have a group of people that are going to be working with them to help from a neighborhood standpoint to give input. I'll be on that committee as well as several other people in CCNA. And one of the things that we do in my neighborhood in Gillespie Park, because all of our development at this point is single family home, but we are on the neighborhood edge, so we're in the corridors. The corridors surround us on 3 sides, so development is going to be a huge issue for our neighborhood. And one of the things that we do is we track every single permit that's put out in our borders, and we watch to see what's happening. We put out the information to all the neighbors. Everybody knows when something's coming new. I have 6 new houses being built on my street right now, and it's only 4 blocks long, the street that I live on in Gillespie Park. So one builder told me the other day when I was asking him if he could move a board because you can't see to make the turn. It's not safe if you're in a sedan. He said, well, the inspector's coming today and the guy is up my butt in Gillespie Park. So I know what we're doing is working. So how do we take what we're doing and educate other neighborhoods is one of the things that we'll be working on. How do we help? You know, it shouldn't be a developer against communities. It should be, how do we work together with developers to build a community that we're all happy to live next door to? I know that some people will be like, oh yeah, that's a pipe dream. But I think you have to have a place to start if you're going to go somewhere. So one of the aspects we're working on is compatibility. Compatibility is in the zoning ordinances today, but it's not looked at because it's not something that can be clearly defined and graded. So one of the things that we're working on very closely with Steve Cover and his team is, what does compatibility mean, and how does that then get incorporated into the process before it goes to the planning board? And frankly, the other piece of the puzzle is, how do we get development built inside what the zoning code already is? For example, we just had, the Miramar project. They're asking to be rezoned as Bayfront, not downtown core. We just jumped over Fruitville Road with downtown core into what was downtown neighborhood edge. So how is that going to affect us down the road when you set a precedent to say it's okay here, and then you come into a new neighborhood and like, we don't want that? So how do we make sure that the city staff understands and the commissioners understand that it may look good in your theory, in your head, but in actual life, it doesn't work. Indian Beach Sapphire Shores right now has a new development that's been built. Yes, now they look at 200 feet of plastic fence. There's no plantings, there's no nothing. So how do we find compatibility into the neighborhoods? That's a huge piece for us. Another initiative that we're working on is parks, protection of our parks. I'm sure all of you know about the issue with Ken Thompson Park last year, where they wanted to build a fairy tale of fun, it's the only way I can call it, out on Ken Thompson Park. And we as CCNA said, you know what? We need to look at all the parks. How are they zoned today? How should they be zoned? So that initiative just kicked off, and we're working with the city. First, be careful what you ask for, right? Because we may ask for something that we ultimately don't like later. Understand what the rules are now, understand what the rules mean, and then define what we think is the right thing to do to make sure that we're protecting our parks so that that land is never sold off, never made into an amusement park. And then the next step of that is, okay, now we've done that, whatever changes are going to be made, is there city-owned property today that is sitting there empty that could be made into a park? And how do we approach that? So that's part B of the Parks Initiative. First, how do we make sure we're protecting what we have? And second, how do we get more parks in our city? And they don't have to be 10-acre parks like Gillespie Park. They don't have to be the Bay. They could be small little pocket parks like Laurel Park has. Someplace that there's green for people to go and sit and enjoy the outside. The last piece we're working on is actually, so many people don't know, never heard of CCNA. Who are they? What do they do? And there's so many things that CCNA does that are important to the city that we decided last year that we need a PR campaign to let people know who we are and let people know that are members, when you have a problem and you need help, reach out, because somebody else may now have solved that problem. Before I was the president, I was the District 1 representative. And what I did was went to every single neighborhood meeting in District 1 to learn from them who they were, what their problems were, you know, the concrete crushing and US recycling. I didn't know anything about that until I went to learn about it at Central Coconut. And how do you find those commonalities to be able to work together to go to the city to say, hey, here's an issue, we need to solve it. How can we go about solving it? Or it could be as simple as it's a brand new neighborhood association that doesn't really know how to do anything and they don't have bylaws and they want some help creating bylaws. So those are some of the things that I learned as a District 1 rep. I'm like, oh wow, this is interesting, because I've only been in Sarasota since 2017 as a full-time resident. So those are the things we're working on. It'll take us 2 years easy to get through the stuff we're working on, and then new things will come up. What I would like to ask you is, David and I met, he went through the priorities, you know, like for example, the sidewalks. You have the sidewalk expansion on 6th Boulevard of the Arts side, Boulevard of the Arts and 10th Street, whereas other neighborhoods, Gillespie Park included, have no sidewalks at all, or the sidewalks are completely disjointed, and Indian Beach Sapphire Shores is a perfect example of that. They don't even have sidewalks. How do we identify and prioritize the dollars that the city has so that everybody gets something? And everybody understands that we recognize everyone has something that they want, but I would rather have Indian Beach Sapphire Shores get some sidewalks than to finish the sidewalks in Gillespie Park from a priority standpoint. So I would like to know from you all, what do you think are the most important things that CCNA, that I didn't talk about, that CCNA should be maybe thinking about? And how big of a priority is it for you?
Let's pass it on. Who would like to go first? Jamie?
Yeah, I just have a question. What are you guys' thoughts on, I don't think I use this, on the new Performing Arts Center?
You know, it's funny, our March meeting, our guest speakers are going to be Tanya and Bill, and also Lori Muldowney and Ron Cashton from the Sarasota Alliance for Historic Preservation to talk about the Van Wezel. Each of them are going to give a presentation, and then everyone's going to have an opportunity to ask questions. So we can, because we always have at least 3 commissioners at our meeting, and it's going to be on the commissioner's agenda in March, the SPAC. So I thought, what an ideal time to have them come and talk so they can hear what people have to say without being in chambers and without having to respond to anything. So we're going to find out what people think, what questions they ask in March. I've seen the presentation in a couple of different places, so I love culture and musicals and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, for me, I can see it, but I can also see why other people say we don't need it.
Okay, others? Yeah, Peter.
Well, thank you for being here. That was a great presentation. We also have an issue around that bleeds off into the city outside of our neighborhood, and it involves transportation. And I think that we could cooperate significantly in the area of transportation in increasing the availability and the utilization, increasing frequency, those kinds of things. I think would be an issue that each of us could cooperate with one another with the other. Understanding that occasionally between our 2 organizations, there'll be a little dynamic tension occasionally as to we want to go one direction, we want to go in another direction. And I think we need to make sure that that doesn't become anything more than a little dynamic.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't think so. You know, people have good ideas all the time, and understanding that maybe, although your idea is really good, it's not the first priority right now, but if something else comes from your good idea and we all win, then that's a gain. And by the way, you led that homeless solutions.
Yes.
I was there that night, and that got very animated,
Right.
and I thought you handled it very, very well. And I actually have reached out to Brenda Downing. She's going to be our guest speaker at our neighborhood meeting next month. So I think transportation is huge. I try to never use my car. If I can walk, ride my bicycle, or ride my scooter, that's the way I'm going to go. And I've come from living in big cities where I didn't need a car. You know, I love going to a city where I can just use mass transportation everywhere I go. There's some way we can get a little closer to that. It would be awesome. We were talking about trains with a friend of mine yesterday. How I lived in China. You took the train everywhere. And America is very car-centric, so you just have to figure out a way, you know, like parking in the Rosemary District is a perfect example. Blue's Ice House. How to solve for that, because, you know, I'm fortunate because I can just walk over to the Rosemary District, but if they really want to really thrive in those restaurants and what they have going, we need to solve the transportation problem to get to Rosemary.
I've got something.
You did it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Peter.
Hi, thank you for that. Is this on? Okay. Anywho, So I have some concerns about the city's economic development. We're very concentrated in terms of tourism, rich retirees, condo development. But on the other hand, we've had 3 hurricanes in the last season. St. Armand's is somewhat depressed. We're unprepared for these storms. There was a door to the kitchen in the Van Wezel that's below grade level, that was totally unprotected. I mean, and it was the source of most of the damages. So the city is very complacent. They just think the good times will roll. They seem oblivious to the fact that we're in the hurricane zone. And we just have one economic driver, which is the sunshine, which creates tourism and retirees. And I don't know if this is within your purview, but that's something I'm concerned about.
You know, as it relates to hurricanes, for those of you that may or may not know this, you know, the county is responsible for storm water, maintaining the storm water, and they are right now speaking with the city to give it back and to end that agreement for the city to build their own department, which will cost millions and millions of dollars. And, you know, I don't know where that money's gonna come from. I don't know where the money will come from that they need to do
Did
this
we
back.
ask for it back, or?
I don't think we asked for it back.
Oh.
According to, they had a stormwater workshop at the county a few weeks ago. I think it was the 21st, January 21st, that I went to, and we're gonna have a stormwater presentation actually at CCNA in April, our April presentation. And they talked about all the different aspects of what they needed to do and what they needed to change in order to better serve the county. They didn't talk about the city at all. In an hour and a half, they didn't talk about the city. They only talked about east of 75 and South County, the things they needed to do, which to me was very much a bell ringing. It's like, hello, I think they already decided that we're out. And so I don't know, because, you know, I thought about this too. It's like, well, if we have to spend millions of dollars on this, where's the money going to come from? Number one. And number two, what are we not going to do in order to build that up? You know, Gillespie Park alone has a capital improvement project with the county that's been sitting there for years. We have houses that flood. Every single time we have heavy rain, there are 6 houses on 8th Street that flood because the level of service is not where it should be to keep that stormwater out.
Kelly, one question on parks.
Yes.
The Parks and Rec master plan was done roughly 7 years ago. And I know firsthand from being at the prep meeting, I think maybe you were there, that Jerry Fogel was in the process of updating that, so to speak. And I think one of the things you mentioned in your remarks is more parks or micro parks or whatever. And I think one pocket parks, even smaller than the new Rosemary Park, even if you need it. And I think one of the, we would like to work with CCNA on, when Jerry's updating that it is a refresh more than something superficial. Since that part of master plan, we've had 3 times the population growth maybe that was anticipated. And the park impact fee funds, one of the, dare I say, sore points of some folks downtown is that a given building might generate $500,000 in park impact fees, but the city deems that money can be spent citywide. Now, I kind of get the greater good argument, but would it be fair that there's a nexus test for 1/3 of that money, or something, you know, that there's some reasonableness test on where the demand for people is coming from, that there may be a micro opportunity. I don't want to get into details now, but I think it's a real opportunity for CCNA and DSCA and the other neighborhoods. When Jerry's doing this update, it be something more than, you know, half an hour exercise.
Yeah, because it was on the last prep board agenda, there was gonna be a master plan update, and I went to the meeting just for that. Only to find out that it was just a holding place in case Jerry was ready, and I'm like, seriously? Seriously? So, I have every intention of being at the next prep board meeting. What I will do is find out from Jerry, is his plan to present an update, or is his plan to present where are we today? What is he going to present? Because the prep board changed their meeting time to 4 o'clock, which is at the same exact time as the CCNA board meeting. So we're gonna have to shuffle around in order to be able to go to that prep board meeting. And I already told him we wanted to be there, so I don't know what he has planned at this point.
Kelly, it's Patrick Gannon. A question. First of all, thank you again for stepping up in your leadership position. I know it's always tough recruiting people, whether at the neighborhood level or certainly CCNA. Two things you mentioned I'd like to follow up on is the meaningful neighborhood input, you call it development input, which is great, in the DRC process. But given that a significant majority of development is happening in downtown, the DSCA area, who on DSCA is on your committee?
Well, that is a great question, and we are looking for new people to serve on that committee right now. And if one of you sitting here would like to raise your hand, I'd be happy to write your name down. Jim? Yeah, I'm looking right at you.
Well, our zoning committee.
So we're looking for people to serve, and we need somebody from downtown to serve on that committee. There's different dynamics for people that already live downtown compared to people that live in a single-family residential neighborhood that's looking at what's going to happen in the corridors. There's a lot that can be learned, a lot that can be shared, and I think that's a fantastic question.
A key part of that is the fact that so much of what happens downtown involves more than just the DRC process. If you take it all the way through completion, that once it goes past the DRC or the planning board, it's almost untransparent, hidden in terms of trying to find documents and road closures, et cetera. That's a key part of it. The other thing you mentioned was parks and then safety. As you mentioned during Peter Penning's the homelessness workshop we did, the question about parks and safety in the parks. We've seen downtown a lessening of benches in our parks. Selby 5 Points Park used to have 10 benches.
Yes.
And they've been removed for homeless control. And so more people need more spaces, more benches in a shaded park. So that's something that citywide, but affecting downtown where there's more growth, there should be some percentage-wise, benches per population sort of concept around the amenities and staffing that, and making it safe. People don't, doctor the condos don't feel safe going and sitting there in the parks. And so what can be done with lighting, with cameras, somehow they park as someone made it safe. And so if you have cameras, SPD's got ways to look at all that. So that's one of the things in terms of working with SPD, homeless outreach teams, and Jerry Fogel in the parks to have safe access for all people, vagrants or whoever's coming through there, but safety.
So, Gillespie Park has a lot of homeless people come through every day, sit on the benches all day. So I know exactly what you're saying. I've never felt unsafe though. Ever since we got the pavilion taken down and the drugs stopped. That completely changed that part. I wasn't aware they'd taken the benches out of 5 Points until I was at your homeless solutions, and I'm like, they took the benches out again? So it's like they take them out, they put them in, they take them out, they put them in. I know that there was someone on the prep board advocating to take all the benches out of all the parks. That got shut down, just so you know.
Is the problem people lying on the benches or just sitting on the bench?
In Gillespie Park or everywhere?
Well, the homeless, what is?
Yeah, I don't know what benches got taken out of.
No, I mean, what is the concern? Is it that homeless people are lying down and sleeping on the benches?
just to clear.
There's a multitude of concerns, Peter.
Okay,
A lot of it is they pile all their belongings on the bench, leave it there all day.
I got it.
And so now we have provisions where it's about to help us out with that. We put dividers, some of the benches.
Right, I
so
was
you
just gonna say, you
can't
can
lie
have
on them.
dividers, so you can't sleep on the bench. I mean, there are ways to make it
There's a
less.
multitude of problems when you start talking about benches, you go to Paul Block Park, and they took all the tables up. Well, and they left some of the swings in, but the chairs and the tables where you could sit down and have lunch and have a cup of coffee, they're all gone. Because the element, the undesirable element in the eyes of some people shouldn't
Right.
have that, permission to use what the rest of us
Right.
use.
Last question, anybody, Bob?
I just basically have a question for you as far as, a lot of things that seem to be happening now have this sort of a difference between the city and the county divide. The stormwater thing's a great example. The performing arts is another great example of that, where the city's gung-ho and the county's dragging their feet. I don't know what the county thinks we should do. I guess we should build a dam with the city limits to keep the
Right,
water
'cause all the
out,
water
because
comes
the
this
water
way.
doesn't come from, farther east. So, things of that nature. But do you see any solution to that,
First, can you tell me your name?
Bob Fur?
I thought that was you. We were at the voting thing.
Yeah,
You had a hat on, so.
I did have.
So your question is, do I see a way for the city and the county to be less on the antagonistic? Thank you. Is that your question? Is there a
Well,
way?
yeah, I don't know what can foster cooperation, so it's not a them versus us scenario so often.
Well, I think I just recently got this information from someone in the city. There are groups in the county that we can join to learn more about what are the aspects of the issues cross-county to try to work together. So my thought process was, why don't I go learn more about it outside of my own city as to what different people care about across the county? Because I think that it's easy for the city and the county to pit against each other because the residents aren't speaking up for what they want.
We're gonna have to wrap it up. With one final positive comment, there is a joint city-county commission meeting now scheduled for March 24th. My understanding, there has not been one for 4 years plus.
They've been trying to do it for a while.
Yeah, so there's 4 agenda items. I don't know what they are. I assume stormwater might be on it.
I would guess,
transportation. So, Kelly, I would really, really like to, you've really hit it out of the park as far as what you've done, comment and question was. So I think it's a really helpful dialogue and we appreciate it. And
Thank you.
please stay on as you would wish, and there is wine at the end of the meeting. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Okay. Moving on, city updates. One important thing is on Valentine's Day, the city commission is going to have a workshop on their strategic plan. And I think this is kind of, depends on what your definition of a strategic plan is. I think this may be somewhat more of an update to priorities and budget priorities. I have circulated to board members my idea for some DSCA input to that. I know most of you in the room will not have seen that. My recommendation is to build a consensus on something broadly similar, or we want to tweak it, and that I be authorized to get that off as a DSCA position, if you will, into their process. I note that a couple things. They've got this meeting going on. There is an economic strategic plan that has been in the works for a year now, that we were supposed to have a workshop on, and now they here not to have a workshop. It will be presented on March 3rd. We have the budget cycle kicking off, and as people have rightly known about the storm events, and so the world has changed. And what I tried to do in my draft, and thanks to those of you who inputted into that work, I think it would be a good thing, however the document ends up being in final form, good for DSCA to weigh in. As we know at workshops, the public may not speak, so we have to get this to an agreement. So is there any discussion? I know I got the latest draft to you folks way too late, but I'm just looking for, like, from a 30,000 foot view, something broadly similar to what I drafted. The one point I make in there that we've alluded to, one of the elephants in the room is funding some of these infrastructure projects, because the way the city is looking at funding them currently ain't gonna work, because penny tax isn't enough money, multimodal impact fees are not enough money, even though we know some degree of certainty we have these new, in many cases, expensive projects being completed with a tax base, one building in particular that's a DSCA member. Value of one condo building is almost $400 million for one building. So, and half of those people aren't homesteaded. So we do have, what's the responsible way to look at infrastructure, whether it be streetscapes or sewer lines or whatever. The second point I make in the letter, and folks sign on to it, is the city currently only does an annual budget 1 year. And I think it's been observed by many of us who have been in other places in life that normally a business would look a couple years out, 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years out. And it would be my suggestion that the city take a stab at multi-year, even if it's a stab, and try and do a better job at revenue projections as much as expense capital projections. So I don't want to go on too long. I'm looking for comments and a consensus that a letter is appropriate from DSCA reflecting our inputs into the strategic planning process. Any comments? Well, I will take.
No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think as you were saying, our neighborhood contributes disproportionately in terms of impact fees, real estate taxes, and much of the discussion about development deals with downtown. So we should have input into the budgeting process and what's important as a community association.
Yeah, this is a delicate subject, and we want to community-wide, but the numbers are 60 to 70% of the city's population growth in the last 5 years. For the next 5 years will come from greater downtown. So how do we factor that into the thinking of the community? So here's what I'm going to do, and I will work to refine this letter even further, and then are we okay with circulating it via email to try and build consensus and with the view of getting it out in the next couple of days, or are we okay with that?
You know, the survey, the city's doing a survey, right? That's open to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yep.
Times the six.
Only one other thing might add to that, similar to what Blanton was saying, is the kind of the economic weight of the downtown. Not only so X percentage of the population, X percent of the development, and X% of the property taxes, residential property taxes paid. When we did that a couple of years back, we're talking of billions of dollars, of assessment, and then taxes paid in. That was a very sizable share of taxes paid by the residents here. And then on top of that, the employment to the condos. All of the associate members here, their employees who are servicing our condos, our condo monies is going out to pay for their services. So we are employing hundreds, thousands of people in the county area from our condos on an ongoing basis. So developers come and go. It's the condos that keep paying. So that is something I think commissioners somehow should recognize in all of this, that this is the ongoing thing. And the more that is made detractive, it's going to decrease. Already the headlines about insurance cost and cost of living in condos, et cetera, going up. I got through condo meetings this week, writing checks for special assessments, for climate impact assessments, and we've had presentations about how often that's going to increase and the temperatures increasing. So that's where I think the livability becomes something that needs to be evaluated in terms of the cost of that livability. Overall, so it's an added part to how we encompass our message and why it's important for the city.
And Kelly,
Can I interject something? I've been listening to you. Before I came here, I went on your website and I read every word. And one thing that was interesting to me is you call yourselves the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association, but you're more than the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association. You have members that are on North Trail. You have members that are in Rosemary. So branding was my thing, okay? I did a lot of branding work in my career. And it seems to me that you might want to think about calling yourself something different because you're bigger than downtown. There's condos all over the city of Sarasota that are a part of your association. If you want the city to recognize what your monetary input is, it's bigger than downtown. You have I want to say, I'm just trying to remember the number, 11% or 11 to 14% of your members aren't in downtown. They're somewhere else.
Well, we defined our boundaries as the greater downtown. This was based upon the
Greater
30-year.
Greater downtown.
No, the
There's a name.
30-year.
I'm just saying,
When the
if
city
you
has-
want to be taken seriously.
The city had a 30-year funding, what was it called? Funding mechanism they did for 30 years.
Mhm.
They did identify the greater downtown area. And so that became the focus because we knew more condos we built, so basically 14 down to Mount.
So
We
would you-
also do apartment. We also have apartment building members, not just condos.
Right, so maybe it's not,
It's the
maybe it's
downtown
the Greater Sarasota
Greater
Condo-
Neighborhood
Sarasota.
Condo
Association.
Association. I'm just
okay,
saying.
well, that's good. And the one,
Thank you.
on the survey that the city's doing, which I understand there are 1,000 responses so far,
Right,
is pretty bad. I mean, it is.
the input is pretty bad?
Well, no, the survey.
Questions are not.
It's one question.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Okay.
I
so-
use the open notes and fill.
yeah, no, of course.
Okay, so then so there is a strategic planning meeting on the 14th, which is a good thing, right? If they're gonna talk, we will have a chance to input. The next item is the joint city-county commission meeting, which I see as a very good thing. I'm told there are 4 agenda items. I know transportation is one. I don't know what the other 3 are, but they're gonna be in the same room, and that is helpful. Talk, right? Moving on to Arts and Cultural Committee, the Performing Arts Center, there's a workshop on that on Monday, the 11th. And I have seen just hours ago the presentation of about 100
150
pages?
pages.
Oh,
or something.
150 pages.
It's the PowerPoint to end all
Is this on the
PowerPoint.
SPAC or the
Yeah.
Van Wezel?
On the spec,
Okay, and then the next step after,
100-page PowerPoint?
over.
yeah, you were better. And so that's, and then it would be followed on in early March with a city commission meeting on the same topic. So where this is gonna go, I can't tell you, but there's a lot of PowerPoint reading. On the Van Wezel Purple Ribbon Committee, I watched most of the last event, and David, I know you're here. I think there's going to be a ramp up in frequency of meetings coming up. The due date for your work is June, July.
Correct.
Correct. And the engineering report, to be honest with you, some of this I haven't worked on tracking and then the repurpose, but those meetings are kind of ongoing and important and in parallel with the new Performing Arts Center potential. Moving on to associate events. Jamie, you've been busy.
Yes.
You want to give us an update?
Yes, so I don't know, I wasn't here for the last meeting, so if there was any conversation about what the April 10th workshop was gonna be out, just scrap that, because we scrapped the idea for various reasons. Tough to find speakers for the subject, and then we felt the speaker series that was coming up was kind of very similar to the idea that we had, so kind of shifted gears. It will be for sure Thursday, April 10th of 2025, 4 to 7 at the Church of Redeemer. We won't be in Goey Hall this time. We're gonna go downstairs. We have a little bit more space down there. Hoping to give our associate members a little bit more visibility that way too. Basically, it's going to be called something that just building a safer Sarasota, kind of piggybacking on what you guys were talking about just now. Kind of how safe do you feel walking around downtown from an SPD standpoint? Do you feel crime's under control? Do you feel safe walking through parks, just like you guys were talking about? How about crossing our streets? So do our pedestrians feel safe? So we're gonna have a good lineup of speakers. For that, planning department, police department, hopefully somebody from the parks department, even the safety of our actual buildings. And we're gonna hear from somebody, hopefully, from the real estate game as well. So that'll be on April 10th, starting at 4 o'clock. And then the other one that David had on here was the annual members meeting, and I think that's gonna be on the 13th for sure. Did we land on that? Okay. And it will be Chief Crochet that will be our guest speaker for that. So I don't have any flyers ready, but those should be coming very, very shortly. They need to get out pretty soon.
So regarding the annual members meeting, we need to send out notices.
Yep.
So now we have a date and location. Have that ready to go out this week.
What's
So-
the garden club?
Garden clubs.
Right, so we have that date and location here for that. That's, we can send that out via notice of the meeting, but also the actually, you know, call for nominations if you wish to anyone else, and then we can send out proxy 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks before. Before that, so we can get that out.
On the selection of the date and the garden club, one of the ideas we had struck, you know, last year we had a rain event, we got a poor turnout for it. This year we want to do much better, showcasing the reinvented garden club as a venue, and then having the chief as our speaker. So the intent there was an interesting venue with a big name speaker. So, and then with regard to nominations, I talked about this last time. Happy to add Bob and Patrick, kind of off cycle, and have their board positions reconfirmed, shall we say. And we are looking for additional involvement, adding age and whatever other diversity, if it's okay to say.
No.
no. I'll say it.
You're not in corporate America.
And so any ideas for members and others stepping up would be welcome. So then we made a tentative decision not to hold an April board meeting in light of a lot of meetings going on. And let me make a sidebar. There are one hell of a lot of meetings going on. Speakers, this workshop, that workshop, special this. It's hard to keep up with these, and I'm concerned about community overload on this kind of stuff. So that's why some of it is totally out of our control. But that's one of the reasons we wanted to come up with a little different spin on the meeting this year, given we've got 3 speaker series over here, and another speaker series over there that this could really do. It's getting to be a bit much. Anything else?
Nope.
Jamie? Okay, thank you. Green space, I don't think we have anything. Peter, anything on?
Yes, just quickly, I think I sent out a note this afternoon to the City Watch Committee and the Homeless Committee as a joint committee meeting coming up. As you know, City Watch was going to kick off its initiation with the National Night Out in conjunction with the Sarasota Police Department. Milton came along and wiped out a bunch of stuff, and it just didn't seem like we should have a meeting in a park sitting around. So that was postponed till May 5th, coming up May 5th, 2025. And we are going to roll out at that point our City Watch program. There'll be a meeting this February 18th, I think it's scheduled for Tuesday, to meet at the police department to put together the final wraps on that. With regard to the homeless committee, I want to let you know that the homeless count on January 27th and 28th went very successfully. Taylor Neighbors and I and a staff member formed one team, and we tramped through the bushes around the railroad tracks and stepped over wildlife that didn't appreciate us being there. And we also went scurrying behind strip malls and into areas that I hadn't been before. We went through Gillespie Park at the dog park. Where we had, registered a couple of folks and counted them there. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I'm going to push a little harder for each of you to do it next year. because it is, and it results in some good data. The surprising thing was to kneel down and look in the eye of a homeless person, an unsheltered person, and develop a relationship and to get to the point where they will ask some very personal, will answer some very personal questions. The problem with it is that once they realized what you were doing, they didn't want to stop talking. Finally, like looked like somebody could do something about something. And I wanted to tell you what happened to me when I was a kid at 8, and now I'm 60, and my parents are still alive, and I can't take care of them because they have to take care of them. It was just an amazing experience. And we had over 100 volunteers doing Manatee and Sarasota, and it was split about 50-50. And so we had a good representation, and the reports of that will be coming out. I also want to mention that one of our friends of DSCA, Megan Howell, had an opinion piece in the Herald Tribune, and was very, very well done. And if you can get a hold of it, I'll attach it to the meeting and so forth.
When was it?
It was Sarasota Herald Tribune Sunday on their opinion page. She was the lead article this past Sunday. And we expect that because the count was done this year in a more comprehensive way, we will identify additional people who are without shelter in the city. We also will identify programs that are serving more people than they served last year. We're making progress in both ways. And of course, if a person doesn't have an affordable house or an affordable place to live, they're gonna end up being homeless. So we see that as a comorbid condition to homelessness, lack of housing. So we'll be moving on and continuing making strides to remove ourselves further and further away from being the meanest city in the United States.
Thank you. Next item, transportation. Roger, what have we got?
A couple of things, of course, the good news was the announcement of the funding for, Boulevard of the Arts and, 10th Street. It didn't get lost in the, what's happening in Washington, and say we will learn to receive it. And David may have more comments on that. A couple of other things, the Ringling, Pine Avenue, roundabout is open. It's by the post office. It's really interesting, and they got lights on the crosswalk that works to slow people down. That was, invented in that part. And the other thing is, I think, we've been monitoring accidents. Most offender vendors, not serious, but nevertheless annoying. And it appears that we need to somehow promote a roundabout education program. And I've looked into some videos that people could watch. We need to perhaps, we might put something in the newsletter so that people can click on it and see that. We might promote that with some condos that have methods of interacting with their residents. Anyway, and we search for other opportunities. I spoke to some of the people in the city, and we have a really nice local produced video on how to use roundabouts, and the Florida Department of Transportation has some really nice materials as well. And we used to have handouts, and I can't find them anymore. So we'll go back to the house.
Roger, is there any reason why
There's no traffic, there's no speed limit sign approaching the roundabout at Gulfstream, but you don't have 41. And so, people can fly down there, and it gets pretty hairy on the
Yeah, because on the rest of the, I do speed is 25 miles an hour or less, and I drive 41 coming south. Haven't paid any attention to the speed limit sign, so we can go and we have a relationship with the Department of Transportation. They have done some things for us and redesigning the paving on the roundabout and are looking at improving signage on it. We'll see about that. Hand it back to David. We might have more.
The word yield be a good word to use going into the roundabouts.
Yield is the bad word.
plain chicken is?
No, but there isn't any, if people don't know how to do it, getting to watch a video is not gonna be the time to do it if they're driving down the road and they're not familiar with it. The word yield, they understand that you yield to the roundabout. I think that would solve a lot of problems.
There are some yield signs. Nothing
It
about how
doesn't seem to be
fast,
making much difference.
Yeah.
how fast you can.
We have flashing yield signs, but around the Gulfstream roundabout, people are still not paying attention.
Oh, yeah, even if it flashes red,
Those are the stop signs for pedestrians.
Okay,
Just yield signs have red on them now.
okay, just one comment on Main Street. The transportation people gave a presentation they did yesterday or whenever, and there was funding agreed to take this visioning sessions doing that stage. That work is underway, with a view, I think, to, I believe by summer, having something more to show to the community. The vibe in the DID board members is there's a big concern about removing the parking. And that's going to be an interesting conversation. But it's clear, that the community at large is talking about better street experiences, cafes, trees, whatever, and that's at odds with the overall plan. Could the length of it lose as many as 100 parking spots? This is the number that was, and that's, of course, a concern of the merchants. But when we know the parking structures are only normally maximum 70%. So how this gets resolved, I don't know. But the good news is the planning, the conceptual work for Main Street is moving ahead. And we'll see that where it goes. I think on all of these streetscape efforts, I continue as economic drivers, just like the park and the Rosemary, somewhat of a catalyst for economic and vibrancy, quality of life, doing something to improve while maintaining its
character, is a good thing for everybody. I think that's all we have on transportation. Zoning, Peter.
Well, it's not exactly zoning, but Peter Fanning and I spoke regarding the new sound ordinance. I think from a downtown perspective, we saw some benefits, which is the plainly audible standard or an overlay to the existing decibel standards. We think that that is of a benefit. It may be less of a benefit to those who live in single family homes and residential neighborhoods, but I think that's a big plus. A bunch of us are working on the Sarasota condo situation. That's the site just south of the boulevard. And it's 271 units. We talked about it before. There were 6 amendments to from the planning board. Some dealing with the primary street and some dealing with the minor building code. A minor building is that if you're lining a garage, you get to build an extra floor. The premise is that you've now made the building less offensive to the surrounding area, the pedestrians and cars, but they don't want to do it fully. So, I mean, it's, and plus you want a vacation, a street vacation. Well, that's in sort of ongoing. There was a delay that's in one park is attempting to bring an effective party status, appeal to the decision to move the driveway. They don't like the project in many different ways.
It's kind of funny if you think about it.
Yeah.
They love their project.
1260 Palm, I guess, you want to speak on that?
That's at the planning board, that's Wednesday. The 12th at 10 a.m. So the deposit folks
were granted agreed party
status, now it's coming back for
reconsideration, so to speak. That's
high visibility of the street.
Yeah, and I guess the DRC process, we'd like to have some representation further into that. We do get, I mean, we get the applications, and basically, most of them are downtown, greater downtown.
So on DRC, on the meaningful input, Kelly, you folks, CCNA has a committee, but then the city is putting together a committee.
It's twofold, and there are people on the CCNA committee that are gonna be on the
Right.
DSCA.
And I am on the city committee, but I'm looking for backup or so maybe.
For the CCNA committee.
No, this was for the city
The
committee.
city
It
committee.
doesn't preclude the interest and the necessity to have somebody at CCNA, so. I think that's it on zoning, Bob, on the big park.
Well, the Bay Park's sort of in a holding pattern. Of course, they're working on getting the permitting for the docks and everything, but of course, they don't want to go ahead with the docks because they don't know what the Performing Arts Center is going to do and how that's going to interact with that, because obviously that's, we went back to the original plan, they would have to tear that up and put it in the park, or put it in the Performing Arts Center, so they're kind of waiting to see what happens with the Performing Arts Center to move much further forward, so they're really just focusing again on that, on the town square that they're doing and all of the stuff along there, in the old library Lexington.
Question. Bob, what construction is the Bay Park doing on the west end, at the end of Boulevard of the Arts, out there where the current beach is, that they have, there's some construction work.
I'm not sure.
It's all Lincoln and you can't get to the beach at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know they're doing a lot of mediation from all the storm damage, so it might be kind of associated with that. Because obviously all along where they're, all along the front of the bay there, it's been totally destroyed by all of the rocks and everything, so I think it's in conjunction with that.
Also, there's a group that's meeting with the engineering and transportation people on the complete streets west, on Boulevard of the Arts West. And one of the concerns is transportation studies needed to take into account the Bay Park's closure of the Santo Domingo Plaza as a way for visitors to the auditorium to get to parking in the Van Ways Law. Currently, they go through there, but now they would have to go out on 41, come back onto Boulevard of the Arts, and then come up on Van Ways Away to get to access parking. So that issues of added traffic needs to be coordinated with the city too, with this kind of thing. So yeah, it's feedback to it.
And then CCNA, Kelly made reference
to the neighborhood traffic calming process. I attached their PowerPoint in your board packet. There is the workshop on the 19th. It's got to be improved. I can tell you what it took me to get a speed table on Coconut petitions, and it was a nightmare. So hats off to the CCNA group who worked on this to get us where we are now. I must say I don't really understand it yet, but it's got to be an improvement. As far as Rosemary District Association, I have weighed in with some numbers on upcoming restaurants and seats. There are around 1,900 restaurant seats in the Rosemary right now with the added influx, and that comes to Toasted Mango, which should open in a month or so. So this concern about, what to do, and then the Quay, 300 at Ocean Prime, that's all valet. Before you know it, we're gonna have, issues around here. So I believe somewhat driven by the Performing Arts Center need and the Rosemary need, maybe a twofer to get somebody to consider a more holistic approach to parking, as well as giving people better options for walking. I think that's all I've got. Jamie, we've got some platinum numbers here. We sure like to And I wanted to recognize Chris, and your last name is Golia. Chris is with the Senior Armaments Association, so I wanted, he doesn't normally attend, we welcome you and, hope, learn some stuff from here. We certainly feel for you folks and certainly hope you're on the road, better road than on the last 6 months or so. So welcome, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, we can go ahead and start with the Bird Key Yacht Club, Tony or Dee.
Yeah, thank you. I'll talk nice and loudly. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Jamie, and thanks, David. Yeah, my name is Tony Britt. I'm almost a Canadian with a kayak. I'm the Vice Commodore of the Bird Key Yacht Club, soon to be the Commodore of the club. We are working through the process of tearing the club down, which will happen in May. April 30th is going to be our last operating day, if you will, to prepare for that. And then we're going to have 18 months of various events, et cetera, all over Sarasota. So it'll be a busy time, be a lot of fun. Things are proceeding very nicely through the city. No surprises, a lot of moving parts, as you can imagine, but it's going to be a spectacular building once it's finally completed in about 18 months. Sorry for the commercial. We have a share club event coming up in March the 12th. I know Jim has been there a couple times. I promise to everyone I speak with about it, it is not a timeshare pitch. It is not a sales pitch. It's really just us opening our doors and saying hello to our friends and neighbors. And if anyone ever expresses an interest in joining us as a member, that's wonderful. If you don't and simply want to have wine, some nice hors d'oeuvres, great food, and a great view of the city, it's a nice evening out. And then finally, we have the Sarasota Big Cup Regatta happening on 11th and 12th of April, which is the largest regatta in the Sarasota area. We routinely attract about 300 attendees, roughly 70 boats. It's a spectacular 2-day event, and it's a lot of fun. And as you can imagine, it's pretty busy. So if any of you are board and want to come up or share a club on, I think it's May the 12th, come on by. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
So you're running the regatta? Is the
First
first
meeting.
sponsor?
It is,
Steve Moore.
Hi, folks. Steve from our communications. 2025 has started off on a tremendous note here in Sarasota. We have grown at an amazing pace. I just wanted, if you don't mind the commercial, to talk a little bit about one of the things that we hear from the condos all the time is we don't want to sign a bulk agreement with you because we have a lot of suburbs. And the suburbs go up north and we don't want to pay for something that they can't use year round. So I'm proud to say that we have just introduced new technology. It is a video stick that will replace one of the set-top boxes in every home. It's a portable device. So now suburbs can take this device up north with them and literally get the same service they would get here in Sarasota up north. So think about suburb that goes back home in August or September, there's a hurricane coming, they want to watch local news. They simply can do that in the confines of their home in Wisconsin or Michigan or wherever they might be. So we look at this as really game-changing technology. It's free. It's included in all of our bulk packages. No one is paying with the extra. So we're very excited about it. It's been getting a tremendous response. And as always, we love the work of this and continue to support you.
Last but not least, Amy, Kurt Simpson. And actually, I forgot to mention, we have one of their own actually as our moderator for the April 10th event. Amazing speaker, so.
Hi everybody, my name is Amy Mary. I am fairly new, so I'm sure you've seen me on before. There's been a lot of presentations in the community. We're looking forward to the 2025 year and happy New Year.
Jamie, do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay.
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Any associates on Zoom?
Nope. Peterson's on. Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson?
I'll mute him. Yeah, because it's the same thing.
Scott Peterson?
Scott?
He's muted.
You know, meet them. I can ask them.
Scott, would you unmute, please? And if you've got any updates for us, please take it away.
Nothing right now. The upcoming legislative session
Hang on, we're.
looks,
Yeah, good.
the upcoming legislative session looks to be.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, the upcoming legislative session looks to be active. I'm kind of monitoring, what's happening with the bills. Once I get a better idea of what's coming down the pike, I will, I'll provide something to the board for an update.
Okay, thank you very much. That said, I think our, next, any comments from our member representatives? Is there anybody? Oh, yes.
Member representative, I was thinking about presentation from CCNA and Promenade that there's a natural cooperation when at the very edge of our boundary, which is a very nice parking lot at the corner of 301 and Main. The county is proposing a $700 million jail. And that's not going to help us out. I mean, a lot of those prisoners in treatment are maybe on the way out. I think that's something that we is a natural. The one the zoning committee and presented this as a result of the Demarque and the Miramar project. They changed the zoning a little bit on the. Now we have the Adagio on the next corner on South Palm and Ringling, and it seems to be going forward. And I think their marketing people may be thinking of 18 stories there when it's only for 10 stories. So there's a couple of things we could cooperate on, and we could begin to watch a little bit.
Okay. Member representatives, is there anybody,
As member rep Jim, anybody got anything for us?
if not, our next meeting is March 5th. I'm working on a guest speaker, but don't have anybody as of yet. I've got an invitation out, so we'll see what we can do. If there are no.
And I have one point I want to bring up. I wouldn't mind getting everyone's opinion on the fact that there are, I think, 8 fountains throughout downtown Sarasota that are all disabled. 5 or 6 years ago, they were live and they were well. I used to walk my dog. It was terrific. They're all over the place. I spoke to Vern, who runs the utilities department, and he basically said it's cost prohibitive to fix the fountains. Meanwhile, we have a lot of art. We're putting in a lot of art. I consider those fountains art, especially when they're up and running. Anybody have any opinions on the importance of that? And if so, how we might influence it?
The art funds that are being used to.
I'm gonna talk to Sarah. I'm gonna meet with her, see what she has to say. It's a good idea.
Well, I would say, when you and I talked the other day, in the context of the sculptures going in, a good thing, in the public art, and the fountains is public art in a sense, so maybe there's an opportunity to bundle these as a.
You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, you can.
Also, you can go back and look at the 2023 members meeting where we had the Restorative Cities author and water features. The Blue City was a key part of that. Not only the water on our shores, but water fountains, water features. It's a key part of having a restorative city, a livable city. So,
Are the fountains not part of the Parks Department?
One of them is, but the rest are under utilities.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, and that's a great point for CCNA. If there's nothing else, again, Kelly, I want to thank you. It's really crazy happy that we had you. So let's call our meeting adjourned. It's time for a glass of wine. Thank you.